You're muted, Bobby.
How you doing, Jerry?
I'm good, man. In Duluth, Georgia, for the next couple of nights. Going to be seeing some Nick Brooks tomorrow. Going to be seeing some top prospects in Georgia that Texas has offered, defensive line guys. So having a great night. Sitting here, got the FSU game on above me here in the hotel. So rocking and rolling. Watched Sarah Lamb practice this morning after coffee and football. So hey, in my job, it's been a dream day so far.
I tell you what, you also just put some news out on OnTexasFootball.com, Jerry, about a linebacker commitment that visited Oregon over the weekend. But you just talked to someone in that camp. Give people the latest on Elijah Bobarnes out of Dallas's Skyline High School.
Yeah, so I think crisis avoided is what I would say. Visited Oregon last weekend. He's now 100% the Texas. Plans to be at the UTSA game. Him and his family plan to be at the UTSA game in 2 weeks. That's what it looks like right now. But I think he's 100% locked into Texas. No more visits planned. And then what I said this morning was if Oregon got an official visit, if things trended to an official visit, then that would be time to really get worried. Then doesn't seem like that's going to happen, and everything is good with the University of Texas. They talked to Texas multiple times today. They didn't speak with them yesterday. Obviously, Texas staff was knee-deep in Michigan prep on Sunday, but talked to Elijah in his circle today, and everything's good. And Elijah Barnes is 100% locked in with Texas. I was told to say Texas is where Elijah Barnes wants to be, and I've always believed that.
Hey, here's what I would say. These things are going to happen. You got to see them through, see what comes of it. But it looks like Texas is in a good spot with Elijah Bobarnes at this point, at least. Again, we talked about this before. If he ever decides to make an official visit, that's where things may get dicey yet again. We'll see, though, at this point. All right, hey, guys, this is going to be this version of Talkin' Ball brought to you by our friend John Donovan over at Longhorn Wealth Management will be a questions and answers type scenario. That's what we want to do on Talkin' Ball. Give people a chance to ask questions, dig a little bit into our brain, that sort of thing. Jerry, you and I were talking before we got on the call here today, and DJ Uyangalele, the quarterback at FSU, under fire a little bit so far. Of course, the loss last week. In our last weekend to Georgia Tech in Dublin. Now they're playing Boston College tonight. Boston College off to a 7-0 start, and DJ has only had one possession thus far, but not exactly lighting the world on fire, as it were. You wanted to talk about something as it relates to that, and that has to do with the importance of portal recruiting at quarterback. We go back to look, Baker Mayfield was a transfer, Jalen Hurts a transfer, Kyler Murray a transfer, Quinn Ewers is a transfer,
Michael Penix,
absolutely. All these guys transfers. You look at the Florida State Miami difference right now. Could you say it's as simple as who got Cam Ward and who didn't between those two guys?
100%. That was a huge recruitment. That was a momentum shifting recruitment because the winner of FSU and Miami was going to get Cam Ward, and it happened to be Miami. And that means FSU was, who were they going to go to? And they went with a guy who's traditionally been an inaccurate quarterback that is not a functional athlete truly as a quarterback in the pocket and outside the pocket. And you've seen early on in this game, Boston College, when they get after DJ, he is not accurate at all. But that, I think, is going to be the difference in 3 wins. Oh, my gosh, BC just busted a long one, guys. I think that's going to be the difference in 3 wins this year or 3 losses for FSU. That was a 3-win pendulum shift in recruiting. Cam Ward going to Miami, DJ going to FSU. Drastic difference. So FSU, this is what I was kind of talking about with FSU. They had such a drop-off at quarterback this year. That put a lot of pressure on them to be good everywhere else. Last year, Jordan Travis gave them a little margin for error, even though there's not Keon Coleman for DJ to throw to. But Jordan Travis, because he was good, so good in the RPO game and so good with his feet, gave them a little margin for error. That margin for error was taken away.
Good stuff there, Jerry. You could go into other transfer quarterbacks these days. I mean, look, the last two Heisman winners were transfers. Caleb Williams from Oklahoma to USC, Jaden Daniels from Arizona State to LSU, and on and on and on. Maybe we'll see something different come out this year, but I tell you what, that it is just a piece of college football now, and the way it is so far. All right, we're going to get to y'all's questions. Please get them in. Again, we're going to be on the chat line. Before we go there and start reading those questions, I want to say thank you to our sponsor, John Donovan, President, Longhorn Wealth Management Group. John's family has a rich tradition, and that is why John branded his firm Longhorn Wealth. He's dedicated it to providing total wealth management for Texas alums, employees, family, and friends. John's a certified financial planner who has spent more than 30 years providing investment, retirement, insurance, and estate planning services and solutions to Longhorn families and friends across the country. John's delighted to be celebrating both the Longhorns' dominating win over Colorado State last Saturday and the one-year anniversary of becoming a sponsor of On Texas Football on our Monday Coffee and Football and Talking Ball broadcasts. As Longhorn Wealth now enters its second year of sponsorship with OTF, he wants to continue to extend the offer of a free 90-minute consultation to all OTF fans to explore how Longhorn Wealth can help you maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and secure your legacy. Simply call John and his team, 972-707-4900, or go online at longhornwealth.net to schedule your free consultation. John hopes to see you and everyone else in Ann Arbor this Saturday as we cheer on the Longhorns to a huge victory. Hook 'em from John and his group. All right,
Bobby,
Jerry,
can I add one thing, Bobby?
Go for it, dude.
Castellanos from Boston College, transfer quarterback. I want to say this about what's interesting about Boston College, and we'll see what happens in this game, right? Is the best thing that happened to Bill O'Brien as a college coach getting a job with a 5'9", 200-pound dual-threat quarterback to make him change what he ideally wants to do? That may be the best thing that happened to Bill O'Brien, is getting a job with a quarterback that doesn't fit what he wants to do, and he's having to adapt to what Castellanos can do.
Look, here's my I'm not a big Bill O'Brien fan, period. I think that he'll end up messing it up some which way. Not exactly sure how or what have you, but he will eventually. That's just who he is. I think the bigger part for me here is what's happening at Florida State right now. The problem that I'm seeing, at least, is I feel like they are undergoing this metamorphosis of being a heavy portal-laden team with a lot of excellent players: Brandon Fisk, Jaheim Bell, Keon Coleman, Jared Verse, all those guys, and they leave. This is what we didn't want to happen to Texas, right? That one-year wonder. It could be similar to what happened at TCU 2 years ago when they went to the college football playoff and then fell off a cliff.
Well, the thing, Boston College just scored again, but the thing about this is FSU did a tremendous job when Norvell's back was against, and we're about to get into the Michigan talk because that's what we're here for, but this is college football talk, which is fun too. Norvell and those guys and his staff did a really good job in the portal when their back was against the wall. They got in on guys early, right? When the portal was really starting to hit more, they got Verse on campus quick. They did a good job getting these guys on campus quick. They got ahead. They were a little ahead of the game in the portal. I think people have caught up with that, and it's more competitive now. But so you give them credit for what they did initially in the portal. I think they kind of got the jump on some people. I mean, I remember when Texas had interest in Jared Verse, and I was like, I was asking about Jared Verse. I was like, too late, dude. FSU got that guy on campus immediately, and this deal's done. He's going to FSU. I think people are adapting in the portal, but you give credit to FSU for getting ahead of it initially, and now it's more of a battle.
All right, let's go here to Cody Jones, because I think this is one of the big topics of the entire weekend ahead of us and the week ahead of us. Cody asks, Jerry and Bobby, are either of you concerned with our run defense and run offense at Michigan? My answer is yes and yes.
Yeah.
Texas has to stop the run, and they have to have at least Michigan has to respect the run. Otherwise, they're just going to drop 8, and no quarterback, no offensive system is really designed to beat a team that can drop 8 on every down and not worry about the run game. They just aren't. And so both of those aspects, I think, are going to be very, very important. Not only the Texas run defense, but the Texas run offense just as well.
I want to take it even a step further. First down run defense is the whole enchilada for Texas on Saturday. First down run defense. If they are not good on first down run defense, then that's not a good sign for Texas. Because if Michigan's in 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4, they're a totally different offense than 2nd and 9. You're not forcing their hand at 2nd and 4 or 5. You're forcing their hand a little bit more at 2nd and 9. The first down run defense is everything. And I think
it could be second down run defense too. But Michigan didn't throw a pass last year against Penn State in the second half, and they had plenty of 2nd and 10s in that game.
Right. And I will say this for the Texas offense. I don't think Texas is going to go up there and run the ball, and that's how they're going to win the game. So I think Texas has to run it enough as far as attempts. I'm not thinking in this game. Now, maybe there's a leaky play and Jaden Blue pops 160 yards and your rushing stats look really good. But I'm not sitting here thinking Texas is going to line up against Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant and the linebacker that transferred in and the 2 edges and Rashawn Benny, who had a really good game against Fresno, who's an NFL player on some level, and just say, all right, mano y mano, here we come, guys. And not early in the game. Maybe if it's late in the game, kind of like you saw against Texas and Bama last year. But I think Michigan's better against the run than that Bama team was up front. This game,
there's no doubt in my mind they are.
This game comes down to first down run defense for Texas defense and pass protection for Texas offense. If they can give Quinn time, I do think Texas speed is going to be an issue for Michigan. Even Will Johnson. Look, the guy from Fresno State caught 6 for 96 on Will Johnson Saturday or something like that. So it's not like Will Johnson just goes to one side and you're done for the rest of the game. He's a tremendous player, but he is a player at the same time. If Texas can pass pro, and I think you're going to see a lot of Josiah Stewart testing Cam Williams early in this game and Wink Martindale testing the right side for Texas early in this game. If Texas passes the pass pro test, I think Michigan's going to struggle with Texas speed.
I will say this. Ohio State has plenty of speed on offense, and Michigan dispensed with them last year. So I hear you on speed, Jerry. I think that Sark perhaps has to be better than Ryan Day at calling plays. That's what I think has to happen.
Feel good about that, Texas fans.
Ohio State the last 2 years has not been able to establish the run against Michigan. Michigan's beat them both times.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, let's go to the next one. Doug Haywood has a question specifically for you, Jerry. Good evening, fellows. Jerry, any recruiting news post the Colorado State game for 2025 or 2026 recruits? CJ was talking about a guy out of New Jersey that made a big defensive end that made an unofficial visit over the weekend.
Yeah, Waffle. His name's Waffle. He was down in this summer as well. 6'3", 245-ish, plays a linebacker, hybrid edge type of player. Really good player. Second trip to Texas in that's June, July, August. Second trip in 3 months from Jersey. Those don't happen very often unless you're seriously interested. And Texas knows you're seriously interested. He came down with family both times. I think Isaiah Williams, I think Texas is in a pretty good spot early for the 4-star 2026 safety out of Fort Bend Marshall. He went to the game Saturday with Caleb Chester, good friend and teammate there at Fort Bend Marshall. He opted to not go see the offensive explosion in College Station. I bet he really regrets that now. But he went to the Texas game instead. And I think Texas is in a pretty good spot there. But again, Texas big recruiting weekends. They're going to be coming up. And not that some guys won't be sprinkled in. Elijah Barnes, by the way, told me he's coming to UTSA, him and his family. But not the guys won't be sprinkled in. Joseph Mbaktu, from Grayson, who I'm going to be at Grayson tomorrow for practice to see Nick Brooks and Bachtu. I think Bachtu's coming on the 21st, which would be the ULM Monroe game, which I hope he doesn't fall asleep in the third quarter of that game. But he'll be there. But it's really the Mississippi State and the Georgia games is when you're going to see, I think, a lot of the visitors. Everybody wants to come to Georgia, but Mississippi State too. I think you're a few weeks into the high school season. When is Texas going to get Madden for Ramo back on campus? When are they? Myron Charles told me Georgia was the game he was kind of looking at. Is Texas going to trying to get Kevin Wynn on? Are some of these guys that are committed elsewhere or not committed yet? When are those guys going to make that visit to Texas? Because you know it's coming. It's just a win. And I think Michael Terry, I think will be coming in, not this weekend, obviously. I think he's going to Nebraska for the Colorado game. But I think he'll be in a game in Austin in September.
All right, this one from AJJ. Thanks for the super chat, AJJ. I asked CJ Rod and Coach earlier, but I need another round of hot takes for the Michigan game this week, fellas. I'm not a hot take guy, AJJ. I got to be honest. I think that this is going to be a tough matchup, for the toughest matchup Texas has all year on defense, and that includes Georgia. I think it's going to be a very tough one. I also think that Michigan can decide to be one-sided on offense, unlike some other teams. Like even Georgia will throw the ball some to complement its running game. Michigan will just be completely one-sided on offense and might be able to suffocate you on defense. If Texas can just get the ball moving and get some time, get some clock going, get some first downs, score some points, I think it opens up a totally different game. If this gets into a race, a boat race, I would take Texas. If it gets into a phone booth matchup, that's where it favors Michigan. Right now, Vegas has the Longhorns favored by 6.5. Jerry, your take on the game?
Thomas, by the way, Castellanos just missed a bomb that would have been 21-0. Missed him by 2 yards, overthrew him by 2 yards. By the way, Thomas Mitchell.
Oh, wait. I asked you a question here real quick. The Michigan hot take from AJJ, unless you're gonna tie that into what's happening with the under 175 yards.
I haven't thought about it, man. A hot take for that game. Golly. It's not one you would go with. If you want a hot take, I'll say Anthony Hill has 2 sacks in that game.
Yeah, that's not a hot take.
Yeah.
They got to stop Colston Loveland, the tight end for Michigan, for sure. He had a lot of catches. All right, this from Thomas Mitchell. Jerry, you want to bring this up? If Texas can hold Michigan to under 175 rushing yards, that's still quite a lot. We win. What do you think about that number 175?
I was going to say 150.
Okay.
If Texas can hold Michigan under 150 rushing, I think Texas is probably going to win the football game.
Fair enough. Hot take: Quinn has more passing yards than Michigan has total yards. If that happens, it's over. I will say that. If that something like that happens, that could be a fun plane ride back from Ann Arbor. That's for sure. All right. Hey, guys, don't forget, this also happened today. Cam Williams, big Cam Williams out of Duncanville, was named co-lineman of the week in the SEC. Not a bad start for the young man in his first year starting. He's had one game under his belt, Jerry, but to get that first time out and get a conference player of the week honor like that says a lot, especially when his fellow tackle is expected to go in the top 10 of the NFL draft. And the other tackle that's supposed to go that high didn't get this award. The one that's just starting his first year did. What did you think about Cam Williams on Saturday?
I would like to say it's a surprise, but it wasn't based on what we're hearing and we're kind of reporting. We've been saying that the expectation in the building is he's going to be a one-and-done guy potentially and can work his way to the first round if he has a really good year. And look, he's got to prove himself in pass pro. But on the schedule Texas is playing starting this weekend, if he proves himself in pass pro, he is going to go from nowhere on the mock drafts to appearing on the mock drafts in the first 2 rounds pretty quickly. Look, he's just a guy that he is different than Amarius Mims, but I think Amarius Mims started six or eight games at Georgia and ended up going in the first round. Cam Williams is that level talent. There's no doubt about it. He's put in the work. He looks better physically than he ever has. I think preparing, knowing it's different when you know this is your year to start, and you know if you have a good year, you're going to go reach the goal and dream is to play in the NFL. Look, if he has a good day Saturday against Michigan, because I do think him and DJ Campbell will be tested on the right side in pass pro. If he passes that test, he is on a rocket ship in the NFL draft.
All right, I want to add this, and it's not just the Texas offensive line; it's also the opposite. Texas stopping the Michigan defense. Jareth Mulholland says this ain't the same Michigan offensive front as it was last season. You're right. They lost all 5 starters. I think they lost their top 6 or 7 guys. Now, Michigan is not inexperienced, though. They've got several transfers and some guys that have played a lot of snaps for them because they had a lot of blowouts a year ago, Jerry. What do you think about the line that Michigan puts up and will confront Texas with?
I know the feeling in Michigan before the season, talking to somebody, is they felt like 3-4 of those guys would play in the NFL. Not like high draft pick guys, but they thought that people thinking, oh, there's going to be a big drop off on the offensive line. I don't know. That's not what people up in Michigan were thinking. But I'll say this. Those guys have kind of waited their turn. They may not have as many starts and all that experience. They had a couple transfers, but different from experience on Saturdays. Now, what those kids had is they've been going up against the Michigan defense in practice. The guys who have been there, they've waited their turn. The key, I think, a big part of this game Saturday is how much do those guys improve from game 1 to game 2? Because that's normally your biggest improvement. How much better does that offensive line look like game 1 to game 2? But I think Khalil is their best back against Texas. I think Donovan Edwards gets a lot of the attention, but I think Khalil is going to be the best back. Khalil, I can't remember his last name, is the best back. Michigan as against Texas as well. But I'm like you, Bobby. I mean, you got to shut down the tight end. He's a first-round pick. But the offensive line is going to be better week 2 than week 1. The question is how much better? Or is that improvement for them going to come the second half of the season?
All right, let's look a little bit further here on some other questions that have come through.
Khalil Mullen. Thank you, Stephen Houston.
Yeah, I totally agree about that. Hey, this one is an interesting one for this game, if we think about it. How important is it to be the first team to put points on the board? I think if you put 7 on the board, it's pretty big. If you put 3, I don't think it's as big. That's kind of what I would go with right now.
Yeah, but so I agree. But here's my thing: take the points early. If you watch USC and LSU last night, LSU drove all the way down the field on the first possession of the game and freaking went for it on 4th and goal from the 3. Take the points at Michigan. Don't go for it on 4th and 3 early in the game. Take the points. Put points on the board in what is probably going to be now, maybe LSU was thinking it was going to be a high-scoring football game. Don't do that Saturday. Take the points, man.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that, we talk about it, Jerry. It's important for whatever team it is. It's a big game, right? You can't make big swinging mistakes in this game, whoever it is. And so if you go for it on 4th and 3 and you don't put points on the board, sometimes you may have a play in front of you that you want to call, but I'm telling you, it'll be interesting to see which way that goes. Archmania has a question here for us. Where was Ethan Burke on Saturday?
He played.
Where was Ethan Burke on Saturday? He actually did not start. Yeah, he played. I think it's a metaphorical question. He definitely played. The thing that is getting to me and what I wanted to ask you here, guys, is what do you think about the move to Ethan Burke to be the backup to Barron Sorrell and Trey Moore becomes the starter? not necessarily what we thought it would be, was it? I mean, it's what we heard they had been working on, but is that what we thought it would be? Trey Moore, the starter, Ethan Burke backing up Barron Sorrell?
Based on the way Sark and Texas was talking about Trey Moore in the spring, I think they kind of hinted at it. I mean, they were talking like he was a captain level guy for them. So that kind of was a hint at it. I think what Texas has, for me, it's like, I don't even know if it matters who starts, at that position. Obviously, opposite Sorrell, you want to have your best pass rusher, right? So Trey Moore, that's going to make sense. But this is going to be a second game in a row. I'm not sure we're going to see Texas have the ability to rush the passer like we hoped, right? I mean, because if somebody said in the chat, if Texas has Michigan in a lot of third and longs, Texas is going to win the game, and that's going to be the key. Can Texas get Michigan in enough third and longs to where the pass rushers who are better than last year have a chance? That's going to be the whole key. But with Ethan Burke, I mean, I think it's his versatility, right? I think he's a third-year guy in the program, and I'm not sure it really matters who starts necessarily. It matters to the guys, don't get me wrong. But in terms of playing for the team this year, I think Ethan Burke's going to have a solid season.
Okay. This one comes from Daniel. I hope OU can't fix those third down issues. We've talked about the Aggies and how helpless they looked on offense on Saturday against Notre Dame. We talked a little bit about LSU and Brian Kelly pounding the table after the game last night. Even talked about Billy Napier and his his waxing by his manscaping, for lack of a better term,
yes,
by our friends down in Miami. But OU actually outscored Temple by a lot, right? I think they covered in that game, but they were 1 of 13 on third down, Jerry. That's not a stat everybody is really familiar with at that time, but Jackson Arnold had a decent game, but he didn't have a great game. And I don't know, that something about that OU offense looked like there was maybe a little disconnect. Perhaps it's the offensive line at this point, more so than the skill position. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought the left guard position struggled for Oklahoma. I think they have some offensive line issues, and I'm not sure Jackson Arnold is the quarterback to just go make a ton of be a playmaker when you have to be if your offensive line is not your strength. I think he needs an offensive line to be really good. That's just kind of my belief with where Jackson Arnold is a player. That's why I may like Mike Hawkins more long-term for Oklahoma. I think he's got that ability to just go out and be a playmaker. I'm not sure Jackson Arnold's a playmaker at that position. Now, Nick Anderson didn't play in that game. He was hurt. And that's why Brennan Thompson was listed as a starter, which we talked about in the depth chart. I was like, that's not going to last. So he had to have been hurt. He was hurt. Nick Anderson's a first, second round level guy and will play 10 years in the NFL. But yeah, I think Oklahoma's they're not as good at tight end as they have been. Now they're really good at wideout. Obviously, they just lost Farouk for 2 months or 6 weeks to 2 months. But the offensive line, and here's the thing, they don't have a running back they can lean on. Javonte Barnes is a good player who had a foot injury last year, but they don't have that running back they can really lean on too at Oklahoma. So that puts everything we're talking about is more pressure on Jackson Arnold to be a really good player. And that's before the things we talked about early in the season, how Venables let Dylan Gabriel walk because he didn't want Arnold to transfer. Well, that puts your back against the wall. That guy better be good.
All right, a couple other questions here. This is a Monday night talking ball. Jerry Hamilton, myself, Bobby Burton, talking a little Texas football, talking college football in general as well. If you have individual questions, please get them in. This is all just chat questions tonight. There's no specific topic. As long as it somehow pertains to the University of Texas and college football, we're taking it. And we'll go from there. Hey, Jerry, this one is from Horn. How do I RSV for the tailgate up in Ann Arbor? Go to the ontexasfootball.com website. We have a pinned post there that gives you the link for the tailgate, or Matt, our producer, will put the link in this chat as well. It is a party a big blue blood party. I think we're going to have around 400 to 500 people there, and there's less than 100 tickets left. It will be the biggest and best party. Several different tents combining into one. Matt says link is pinned at the top of this chat. All right, Jerry, there's a German word called Schadenfreude, which is when you're a person that likes to watch car wrecks or watch other people fail. Juan Garza asks, is Texas A&M on the downward spiral in recruiting because of Texas and the SEC? Is that the reason, or is it because it's self-inflicted?
So I may be a little different on A&M than some people are right now. Look, they're recruiting well. I mean, they have a top 10 class. You get the first year bump, and they've done a good job in California. I'm just here to tell you. They've done a good job, which maybe surprised me with them. I think Notre Dame is a really good defense. I think they have a tremendous secondary. I think A&M's offensive line is still going to be an issue down the line, but something's not right with Connor Weigman. I mean, I'll let all the people speculate, but that did not look right out there. And the question is, how long is he going to be the guy? And does he fit what Colin Klein does? I don't know. Look, they lost their center for the year to ACL in that game. I don't care what you say. You lose your starting center for the year. That affects you. And they boo. But I still think they're going to they're also going through a real big culture change there. Look, Sark went through this when he took over Texas. And that first year was ugly. And I'm here to tell you the difference, knowing some people close to that whose kids are on the team that I cover in recruiting, there is a massive difference in expectations from Mike Elko and his staff versus Jimbo Fisher and the prior staff. And there's some guys that are going to buck that system and they're not going to make it. There's some guys that will excel over time and make it. But look, if you look at what Sark went through at Texas, A&M, it's a big drastic change they're going through. Their frontline players are good players. Their defensive line's really good. I think Notre Dame is better on offense than A&M made them look, because his first time starting quarterback Riley Leonard, some new guys at wide receiver. He had a running back that didn't run the right route, else it would have been a touchdown in the first half of that game. There was another route that was blown where Leonard made the right read and actually threw it to the right spot that would have been a big play. Receiver cut off the route. So I think A&M's front is really good, and Elko will keep them in games as a defensive coach. But I'm not sure they're not going to have to make a change at quarterback in that scheme. I mean, something's up with Connor Weigman. That he just didn't look right on the football field.
I kind of wonder if, you can't. Connor Weigman is not a running quarterback.
Not with all those injuries he's had.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. He was a good runner, but he's had too many. His head's been knocked around a little bit too much, just to be frank.
Yep.
And Colin Klein, has he ever been a good coordinator when he couldn't run his quarterback? I mean, that's a fair question. To get back to Juan's question, though, here, Jerry's saying that A&M is not on a downward spiral, at least not yet, because of Texas being in the SEC. I will say this, and I would challenge Jerry on this. A&M starts losing some more games like they lost.
Well, yeah.
Right? You're going to see – you won't see downward spiral. You'll see some unraveling.
Well, that's
the category.
That's the whole key. That's the whole key. Look, is if Texas beats Michigan Saturday, you realize how much pressure that puts on Elko in year one and Venables in year three? I mean, that even amps up the pressure even more. Let's be real. The reason A&M fired Jimbo Fisher and didn't let him coach the LSU game was because Texas, they saw what was going on in Austin. If Texas would have been a 7-5 team last year, I'm not sure they go as drastic as and make the move when they did on Jimbo. They could not allow Jimbo to upset LSU and then fire him after that. They couldn't do it. They felt too much pressure with what Sark was doing in Austin. If Sark goes and beats Michigan Saturday, that amps up the pressure on Elko in year one and Venables in year three a lot.
All right, Thunder Pup, I thought this was a good one. Do you think Michigan played to the level of Fresno on Saturday? I really think Michigan will show up especially defensively next Saturday against Texas. There'll be 10,000 people in that stadium on Saturday. I think Michigan will be pumped. I think that you could look at this and say, was Fresno State Michigan's Rice from Texas a year ago prior to the Alabama game? You could easily put that up there. I do think that Michigan played to the level of Fresno a little bit. I did watch that game now. And what I would say to you about that is the difference is I'm not sure Michigan has the firepower, not just at running back. Donovan Edwards really good, but they don't have the quarterback that can bail you out. They don't have a wide receiver that they didn't replace Roman Wilson adequately, in my opinion. They've got some good receivers. I mean, Michigan's got good players. I think that they're just as good on the defensive front. One of the guys that is underrated that they lost is Junior Colson, their linebacker. He kind of was a little bit of the glue of that defense and called the defense. That's a big one. They also lost a big safety that I liked a lot. I think they're really good defensively, potentially. I don't think they have the tools to be really good offensively.
And remember, they're returning starting safety ACL in the spring. So he's not even there. And he was a really good returning safety for them as well. Look, I'll say this, though. I think Fresno is a really good G5 team, by the way. They were 9-4 last year. They have higher level.
They're better than Colorado State.
They have higher level athletes across the board, except for wideout, than Colorado State. Bigger, better athletes. There's a reason they won 9 last year and Colorado State won 5 in the same conference. Fresno has bigger, better athletes. So I think the interesting thing, though, that gave Texas staff a very good read on Michigan because they weren't, and we talked about this last week, they weren't playing a patsy. So they actually saw Michigan challenged by a quality G5 team, an 8-9 win level G5 team. So that is a really good scouting report for Texas. That gives them a true look at what Michigan looks like this year in game 1. I think that's a really good place to be for the Texas staff. And now for Michigan, that's why their offensive line, how big of a jumper. They didn't play against a terrible team. They actually played against guys who could challenge them enough to know, okay, we got to make a big jump from week 1 to week 2. Can their offensive line make that big jump? We'll see. But they didn't play a patsy last week. They played a team that could hang with people. And so that was probably good for that Michigan team. I don't think Michigan overlooked Fresno State. I just think Michigan lost 13 NFL draftees, and they were quarterbacks, and they were the heart of the defense, and the play caller of the defense. They lost their head coach, their strength and conditioning coach, the best scout ever known to man. They lost a lot. I mean, that's a lot to lose to come out in game 1 and people expect them to look like the reigning national champs. They're not the reigning national champs. They're a really good team that's looking to be better by the end of the year. Now, can they beat Texas? Look, I mean, Sark said it. Sark answered a question twice. He started with his intro today, and this is his message to the team all week. 40, what would he say, 41-3 over the last 44, 16 wins in a row, 23 home wins in a row. That means a lot. Every Big Ten team, Penn State, Ohio State, everybody's come to the big house and left with an L. That is the message all week. I don't care if we're ranked 3 and they're ranked 9, BS. Here's what this team does at home, and this is what they've done at home. And they're playing – Michigan's going to play a better football game this week than they did last week, as most teams do game 1 to game 2. I expect Texas to look like a better team than they did last week. That's just big improvement time look at the Texas receivers. They're going to be better this week than they were last week. That was their first time playing at Texas. What's Ryan Wingo going to look like the more he plays? What's Trey Wisner going to look like the more he plays? Cam Williams. So Michigan's going to have a very inspired effort. I'm telling you, they think they're going to bully Texas. We'll see. Texas knows they think they're going to bully them.
Hey, let's switch over to recruiting real quick because David Keith Williams gets down to the nitty-gritty on this one, guys. Jerry Hamilton, if you had to give a percentage, what percentage chance do you think Texas ends with a DT class of Josiah Sharma, Myron Charles, and Jackson Blackwell? Charles, of course, from Port Charlotte, Florida. Jackson Blackwell out of Lorena, Texas, up in Central Texas near Waco.
I can't speak to Blackwell. I think Blackwell's a quality football player, one of the strongest players in America. Look, Myron Charles, look, I talked to him a couple weeks ago, and he's probably going to visit for a game this year. He has Georgia circled. He has a long-standing relationship with Odell Haggins, so we'll see what happens as the season moves along. I think the one thing is, I think in recruiting, we tend to look at one game and say, oh, guys are going to jump ship. Well, I think there's a long season that plays out too. I mean, there's some kids that may look at a situation which a Texas fan say, why would – dude, he's going to flip. But maybe that guy says, I can go start there. That's the kind of where some of these kids are a little different from time to time. But here's the thing with D-line recruiting. I think Texas is giving themselves more shots on goal now, and I like the shots they're taking. I'm going to see Joseph Mbaktu tomorrow. Caleb Bell at Milton committed to Arkansas. Braxton Kyle at North Gwinnett committed to Rutgers. Those three guys are really good. I mentioned I put it out this morning on TexasFootball.com. If you haven't been over there, Texas is talking to Walter Mathis Jr. out of Savannah Calvary Day. You want to talk about a bad mofo? He is way underrated nationally. I don't care where he's ranked. That dude's a ball player. Texas is continuing to expand that D-line recruiting net. They're talking to Chase Sims, the A&M commitment at Richmond Randall, who's a really good player. So they've expanded the net. I like the net. I like the guys in the net too. So I think they're on the right track now. They just got to go get it done.
All right, let's go to a couple of more questions here. Still got plenty of time left. We're gonna close this off at around 5 minutes after the hour. We got about 10 more minutes here, guys. So please get your questions in. We got time to answer them. Let's start with this from Charles Spears for next. What's your thought on the red zone skill this year? I feel it has improved. Charles, we talked about this a little bit. I feel pretty strongly that Quinn played much better in the red zone a week ago or on Saturday than he did even against Washington 6 or 7 months ago, Jerry. I feel like his throw to Matthew Golden on out was terrific. The no-look pass was great. The play to Isaiah Bond as well. If you really look at it, my opinion with Quinn is he's a hair better, which is all you want, right? He's already a really good player. He just needs to keep improving incrementally. And I thought he did so, particularly in the red zone on Saturday and just with his overall demeanor and comfort, it looked like operating the offense and the folks that he was throwing it to.
Yeah, so I'm a little more in the wait and see mode on that because I do think Texas played an inferior opponent. What I want to see is if you're at third and goal from the 6 twice against Michigan, what does that look like? So I want to see it against Michigan this week before I kind of formulate a strong opinion. Who they played against, executed, got it done. Is Texas going to be able to run the ball in the red zone against a stacked box enough? They're going to create any lanes. Who's going to be that guy taking that handoff? Trey Wisner scored the first touchdown for Texas. He's your red zone back at this point in time. Really good player. Are him and Jarrett Gibson going to kind of split that depending on the situation, down and distance, who they're playing? I don't know. But Colorado State's weakness defensively was up front, and their strength was actually their back seven or their back in their secondary. So I'm going to wait and see on that a little bit. But I do think this. I think Quinn has a really good rapport with Matthew Golden. And I think if there's somebody you really trust, that always helps a quarterback. And not that he didn't trust Worthy or A.D. Mitchell, but I've just been told all summer that there's something with his rapport with Matthew Golden, that he has a certain just feel for Matthew Golden and what he's doing. If you have somebody that a quarterback has really good feel for and your play caller knows that tends to help you in the red zone.
Derek Wisner asked this. Do we go with a bigger defensive set against Michigan, more Burke and Finkley and less Moore and Simmons? I want to say this. I mean, Simmons is as big or bigger physically than Burke right now. I mean, I just think he is. I actually think you might see some of Alfred Collins playing the 5 technique against Michigan. I think they took a look at that this fall camp and in the spring. We saw some of that. There is no doubt, though, Derek, to your point, they are going to go bigger against Michigan. If they don't, they risk the fact of just getting it run down. So I absolutely think they're going to go with bigger sets. I think that they may go with a true 3 linebacker set as well. A lot of possibilities there, and how they exactly do it, I'm not sure. Jerry, did you want to add anything?
I think the key for me is going to be, what if Michigan has success running the ball early? Then what does Texas do? Sadir Mitchell didn't play bad Saturday. Can you steal snaps with some? If Michigan has success running the football early in that game Saturday, then it's going to be Texas that's going to have to adjust. So what are they going to do? What is their adjustment going to be? And I'm not just talking about schematically, because that's those guys in the room, right, making a game plan. But I'm talking about who comes into the game. Who's going to anchor if Michigan does have some success early on? Do you put a Sadir Mitchell out there and say, man, this guy's going to be hard to move. You got to put two guys on him to move him in the run game. I think it's going to be interesting. That's why I think first down run defense is almost everything for Texas defensively in this game. If they have success on first down run defense, that's not where Michigan wants to be on this team offensively early in the season. I love that Texas is playing them week 2. I think it's so similar but different in a ways. So similar to Alabama, because it's whether it's Davis Warren or Alex Orji, it's a quarterback starting his second career game. It's a offensive line who may not be is not as experienced as past ones, right? It's a team that is still looking for a little bit of their offensive identity, which Alabama was with Jalen Milroe last year. There's a lot of similarities there, and Jalen Milroe is so much better than what Michigan's going to put out at quarterback. But I think first down run defense is everything in this game for Texas. I really do.
Dylan Deutsch asks, over under 10 TDs for Isaiah Bond. He's got one already. Matthew Golden with 2. Silas Bolden has 1. Jarrett Gibson, Trey Wisner has 1. What do you think? Over under 10 TDs for Isaiah Bond. He was certainly the most, how do I want to say this? He was the most targeted wide receiver in the first game for Texas. Ended up having 5 catches, I think, on 7 targets. Is that right? Did DJ just do something?
Bobby, the easiest touchdown pass you will ever have. He threw it out of the end zone. I mean, and it came, and I just can't believe it, man. The guy's just an inaccurate player. No pressure. I mean, I'm Matthew, our producer Matthew about fell out of his chair on that one. But yes, Isaiah Bond. I think if he gets 10 touchdowns, Texas is in the playoff. Too many weapons.
A lot of ifs. You've said that a couple times.
Statistically, I do think that's going to be the key. I mean, because look, we've talked about like catches, yards, touchdowns for wideouts. How many guys caught passes Saturday? I mean, there's a lot. Ryan Wingo just played his first game. He's going to start to be a red zone weapon at some point for Texas. Maybe that starts Saturday. Does the running backs catch more touchdowns out of the backfield versus last year? I would say that's probably going to be the case with Blue and Wisner. So I think it's going to be it's going to be tougher for all the stats to kind of bear themselves out that some people want, unless it's a playoff type of season. I think there's a lot of weapons on this team.
There are a lot of weapons at running back too. I mean, I'm not so sure that a running back. I mean, look, Jaden Blue had the second most targets on the team, Jerry, on Saturday. Yep. All right. By
the way, I want that to be the case every Saturday, because I know he had a couple of dropsies Saturday. That guy's got tremendous hands out of the backfield. I think that was the first game that, look, Jaden Blue has played a little bit at Texas, but this is his kind of coming out party. This is when he's being asked to do more than he's ever been asked to do at Texas. And you have to get accustomed to that. You have to
there is a load on his shoulders now.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Agreed.
And so he's more tired when he runs a route this year than last year, because he may have just carried it twice, taken 3 or 4 hits, gets up, motions out to the slot. Now you go, all right, we're going to throw you the football. That's different than when you just come into the game and the play is a pass play to you out of the backfield. So he's got more that he's processing early in the season, and he's going to get better as the season moves along. I want 5 to 6 targets for Blue out of the backfield every game, because I think he's a real weapon.
All right, we have time for a couple more topics and questions here. But first, I want to say thank you to our sponsor. As a proud UT alum, John Donovan has served for 15 years as a Dallas, Texas board member. He is now helping lead the build-out of the Collin County Texas Exodus chapter. John's a certified financial planner with more than 30 years of experience and expertise in helping Longhorn families maximize their wealth, minimize their taxes, and secure their legacy. So today, John celebrates his 1-year anniversary as a sponsor of On Texas Football, and he wants to continue to offer all of you a free 90-minute consultation to explore your financial needs, interests, or concerns, and to help find optimized solutions and strategies to satisfy them all. Simply call Longhorn Wealth 972-707-4900 or go online, longhornwealth.net, to schedule your free consultation. John hopes to see you all in Ann Arbor on Saturday. He will be joining us at the tailgate. Make sure you get your RSVP in there as well. John says hook 'em from him and his group at Longhorn Wealth Management. Appreciate you, John, for your sponsorship. I got a couple of questions just to get these off the boat here. We were talking about Ryan Wingo a little bit. Colton Martinez. Wingo needs a Pluckers deal, man. Wingo wins. Wingo gets wings. And then, Jerry, this one's for you. It's a kind of an inside joke. What 2024 player makes the most sense to get a Manscaped NIL deal? Anybody have maybe it could have been the old Quinn and he could have shaved the initials in his head.
I got it. Manny the Manscaped Muhammad, because he is tight. He is tight in coverage.
Love it, Jerry. I love it, dude. All right. Hey, we've got a couple more minutes here. We're going to get through these. Jerry, Arch Manscaping. Ooh, there we go. That's a good one, Sandman. Jerry from LL. Has Texas shown any interest in 2026 DT Tomahini Tupui from Mater Dei? That's Santa Ana, California. That is the same high school as Spencer Shannon. Texas has also recruited some other guys out of that school and not been necessarily as successful. But what do you think of that, Jerry?
I think
Brandon Baker's obviously.
Yeah, I think they've either offered him or they definitely like him. I need to go check on that because they offered a couple of kids in the state in 2026 at D lineman. Let me look at that, LL. If I don't have that tonight, I'll get that for you in the morning. Okay. I know they like him. I'm not sure if they've offered yet.
All right, Todd Lacey asked this question. We're going to end with this one, guys, tonight. What do you feel is Michigan's Achilles heel? What should Texas exploit? I think it's their passing game. The Michigan's passing game is their Achilles heel. They have some pieces of the puzzle, but they lack the quarterback that can really do it. I don't think they have great wide receivers. They have good wide receivers. So I think it's the Michigan passing game is the Achilles heel. What should Texas exploit? That's a different question because you have to stop the run first before you can even exploit the Michigan passing game. I think you got to test Michigan's secondary a little bit if you get the opportunity. If you can keep Michigan's dynamic duo inside from getting after the quarterback, they couldn't do it. Washington couldn't do it last year, by the way, not well enough to keep Michael Penix clean. And y'all know how clean Michael Penix was against the Texas defensive front a year ago. I think they got to test the safeties a little bit in Michigan and maybe test the linebacker in coverage with Jaden Blue and Trey Wisner. That's where I come out of. What do you think? What's Michigan's Achilles heel? Do we agree it's the Michigan passing game? And then maybe your answer on what Texas should exploit.
Yeah, look, I do think it is the Michigan passing game. I think this is a game where Texas can be very aggressive defensively, very aggressive defensively in their coverages. Now you can't give up bust in the run game, right? But I do think it is in the passing game for sure. I think the question is how much more of Alex Orji are you going to see this week as Michigan tries to really run the football early against Texas? I think that's going to be interesting, but I do think it's the passing game is the obvious weakness of Michigan. Defensively, I haven't seen enough on that. I mean, they lost so much. They lost some real key guys in their secondary. And Fresno State couldn't pass. They couldn't pass pro Josiah Stewart, so you couldn't really see how much success you could have throwing the ball against Michigan. But like I said, the one Fresno State receiver had like 6 for 90 working against Johnson. And with Rod Moore out with an ACL, with Sandstrill in the NFL, if you can pass, that's why I think it's first down run defense and pass pro for Texas. If Texas pass pros against a really good Michigan defensive front with a couple of guys, especially Josiah Stewart, who could absolutely disrupt your passing game. If Texas pass pros well, I think they're going to have success in the intermediate and deep passing game against Michigan.
If. Big if. Justin Yarbrough, sorry I didn't see this earlier, buddy. Appreciate you very much. What are y'all's thoughts of the NCAA doing away with NLIs and adding a year of eligibility? Restock the jerky fund, Jerry. Cool to see you have a co-pilot this trip. He's talking about your son. Justin Yarbrough, by the way, we met you down in Webster, Texas last week. It was good to see you. Really appreciate you, man. Jerry, I'm not sure I know much about this quite yet, about doing away with national letters of intent. Have you heard about this? Did this just break? Matt, our producer, are you familiar? You're not either. Justin, this may have happened while I was doing other things today. So why don't we address this in the morning on Coffee and Football? That sound good? I appreciate you, man. Sorry I don't have more for you right now. Jerry's already bought like 2 packs of jerky, though.
Justin Yarbrough, yes. My son Jezik is on the road with me this week. We're having a lot of fun.
All right. It says here, article, NCAA considering changes to red shirt eligibility, national letter of intent as part of sweeping review.
Okay.
Man, that'd be crazy. All right. Not necessarily bad, though.
I'm not even sure they're binding anymore.
Yeah, well, hey, here's the other problem. I want to add this. You know, the NCAA actually having less rules is smart, in my opinion. That's my whole take on it. Like, this whole idea that the NCAA took down the idea that Oklahoma State could have QR codes on the very back of their helmet. Who cares? I mean, you're going to let people put Buckeyes on their helmet. I mean, additionally, who cares? Anyways, this is from that article. An elimination of the national letter of intent is also being proposed with a new model that brings a player's recruitment to an end, according to multiple reports. Under that new proposed model, the core benefits of the NLI will be instead incorporated into financial aid and scholarship agreements. That's interesting, but it's very similar thing. So I don't know.
Ryan Nelson's got one. Ryan Nelson, App State coming to Clemson this week. Be careful, man. App State's got some good transfers, Dabo. Might want to scout those guys.
All right, that's going to do it for tonight. Guys, thank you all for joining us. We stayed about an hour, tried to answer everybody's questions. I'm sure we did not get to everything, but we will as soon as we can next time we talk to you guys. We're on again tomorrow morning for the next edition of Coffee and Football. We have lunch with the coach coming up tomorrow as well. Make sure you check out ontexasfootball.com. Steve Sarkisian today went to the mic and talked a lot there. CJ Vogel has the latest from that as well. All right, for Jerry Hamilton, as well as our producer, Matt Hutchison, and our sponsor, John Donovan at Longhorn Wealth Management. Thank you very much for a good Monday night. You guys have a good week, man. Have a good one.
Charles Peter says, last question, please. Charles, what you got? Did he have a question?
We tried.
Yes. We tried,
Charles. All right. You guys have a good one. Take care of yourselves. Jerry and Matt behind the scenes and everybody else out there tonight. Hook 'em. Have a good one.